At times like these, aren't you glad you live in Australia, free from the poverty and the wars of the world? Who wouldn't want to live in Australia? Australia is many things, but above all else, we love our sport. That's why more sportsmen have won Australian of the Year than in any other field of employment. But there is an ugly side to Australia that can manifest in a sporting environment. Even if you win Australian of the Year, it doesn't mean you won't cop some racial abuse. But it's a prejudice that you don't see. You can feel. It hides in the alienation, jokes, media discourse, political policies and social attitudes that keeps Australia divided.
He can't even get a regular girlfriend. It's so sad.
I mean, Jesus knew that there was a place for everything, and it is not necessarily everyone's place to come to Australia.
So what does that mean for the asylum seekers, refugees and immigrants coming to Australia in the hope of a better life? Are they doomed to isolation? Will they remain in quirky, obscure subcultures, or will they be embraced by Australians as Australians? Perhaps the answer lies on the sporting field. Lael Kassem and Amna Kara Hassan are first-generation Australians who co-founded the Auburn Giants women's Aussie rules team, even after the men's team had folded.
The men's team, though, had a completely different experience playing AFL. So they experienced very overt racism on the football field. And ultimately, I think that was a key contributor to them folding. For the women, I think there's two types of racism that you deal with. There's the overt and then there's the silent racism. And I think the silent one is harder to call out. It's harder to address because you can feel it, but you can't point it out to someone and say, like when someone calls you a name, you can say that's a racist sledge or whatever. And I think this sits behind the whistle of an umpire. That is the most frustrating, disempowering thing when...
Lael's brother Salem played for the now defunct men's team after he immigrated to Australia from Lebanon as a 6-year-old.
I remember watching my brother play, my older brother. This is back in 1987, 88 or something. I went to Campbelltown, I was sitting on the sides watching him, and there's like mothers on the side and they yell, "Get that walk, get that walk, get that walk." But back then it didn't have the same sort of connotation as now, and it was fairly isolated.
With recent terrorism alerts, Muslims have been unfairly stereotyped in recent times.
The last 20 years it's just been terrible to watch. Really, really terrible, because the whole thing about Australia is that it offers the opportunity for me and you to be able to talk like this and get along. You never get that in the Middle East, you never get that in Dubai, you never get that in Turkey, you never get that anywhere.
However, stereotypes aside, these are the people that are uniting Australia by embracing their diversity.
I think essentially we're just a bunch of girls playing footy. You know, we're all Australian, we're the multi-culturalism of Australia, but we do have we are very different because we bring our culture, our heritage to footy, and
that's a strength, I think. That's something that people embrace.
It's something that it's positive for the game because we can then bring our culture with their culture, and it just becomes such a diverse and it's inspiring place and like footy to come to.
Sport has the power to affect both individuals and social groups, and therefore it is a pivotal tool in helping the integration process of new Australians. Les Murray is known as the face of soccer on SBS, but once upon a time, sport helped him adapt to a new land.
That's the language of sport. It brings people together. It builds barriers and bridges between people. And I as I mentioned before, found my assimilation into Australian society enhanced through the language of football. And not only that, but football also eased my the hardships that immigrants naturally find when they first come to a country in terms of assimilating. Football helped me assimilate into Australian society.
Les has become involved in fundraising for a community group called Football United.
When it comes to asylum seekers,
yes,
and the refugees, sport, particularly football, is a very powerful vehicle. Football United is an organisation which hit upon the idea very cleverly that football can be a medium for enhancing the fortunes of refugees, of easing their path into Australian society, and rightly so. I mean, football is an international language. It's the one true international language.
Anne Bundabarus is Football United's founder. The program has been running now for 9 years and continues to be one of the most successful social cohesion programs in Australia.
Started hearing about issues of racial bullying in schools where there were a high influx of refugee youth, so we thought, well, let's try to use this sport to bring people together to build understanding with young people. So it initially was all about providing newly arrived kids a welcome space, and a space where they would feel at home and where they would feel accepted and supported, and which would enable them to build ties with kids that were already in school. And what's really cool about it is over time that evolved, and it evolved to be a space for any youth in challenging situations to find a welcoming and supporting entity.
Harmony, I love it. So we want to make sure that today is all about having fun, playing in harmony, respect, no fighting. So we show those peaceful values. On the 21st of September, it's set by the United Nations to advocate or to tell the global leaders that we don't want fighting around the world. So the least that we can do is start at our own homes at a local level, yeah?
So Football United works with young people from diverse communities, diverse backgrounds. We, depending, to be honest, on funding that we get, is what enables us or directs us in choosing what type of school or program we run. But our key focus is working with young people from a disadvantage, be it refugees, new migrants, Indigenous young people, people from low SES, socioeconomic status backgrounds. So really it's to engage young people in enabling them to feel confident about themselves, providing a platform where they can play and meet new friends and feel welcome, you know, and just feel like they can just be themselves. Especially with new migrants, refugees, where football is the only language they're familiar with. You know, they come from really terrible situations and they need to feel at home or feel a piece of home, and so football is what brings them together.
The key to Football United's success is that they have actually engaged and activated the community to not only be aware of social issues regarding immigrants, but to become involved in the cohesion process.
The program has had a significant impact in pro-social behavior, particularly of young males, significant impact on cross-cultural engagement, not just understanding that there are multiple cultures out there. Everybody understands that. You just have to look around and see that there's 50 different types of people walking the streets of Australia. But that doesn't mean you appreciate or engage with it. You know it's there, so that's nothing. That's just superficial. What we see through Football United is appreciation, engagement, connecting, and connecting in an ongoing basis. Mm-hmm. And you don't appreciate that until you actually engage with it yourself.
Yeah. The kids of Football United are the future of Australia, and the program has made them ready to lead the next generation.
My name is Niyawa. I'm from Jamesman High School, 17, and I'm from Afghanistan.
Oh, sweet.
You know, when I first started, I was a really shy, nervous person. Where I am now, there's a lot of changes. So, you know, I'm a coach now. So, you know, when I first started, I was nervous boy. I couldn't, stand in front of people and talk. But now, I can do whatever.
Did the program or did sport in general help you acculturise to Australia, I guess?
Yeah, it was. You know, where I'm from, Afghanistan, there's hardly any sports going on. You know, it's hardly just hockey and cricket. Where here in Australia, it's like freedom. You know, you're free. You know, there's a lot of opportunities you get here, but you don't get it back in my country. So, you know, it's our time now to try and do whatever we can. So, yeah. Well, all I can say is, you know, Australia is a country where, you know, everyone can succeed in life. It's like freedom. You know, you can do anything basically.
Despite its success, Football United fights an ongoing battle to find funding and sponsorship.
There are days when I say, what does it take? You know, we've tabled documents, we've got all of these beautiful film clips, we've had people come out, we've got solid research among the best in the world, but yet, I don't know. I think it needs one champion to just sit down and say, okay, for the next 5 years, we're going to support this, and you will see a difference.
We just love our sports people, no matter what their background is. There might be some prejudice in Australian society against certain racial groups or religious groups, but sport transcends all that. It crashes through that barrier.
Amongst the most maligned and alienated people in Australia are Afghan asylum seekers on bridging visas. They've done it tough to get here, and freedom is still a long way away.
They probably didn't have money, and they just sold their houses. And especially coming to Indonesia, and I know most of my friends, they couldn't make it. Yeah, they couldn't make it, and they're drawn, as you see in the news. The Christmas Island boat sank last.
You had friends on that boat?
Yeah, I had friends, my neighbors. Yeah, some young guys, 16, 18 years old. Yeah, so it was horrible. So it's not easy to come in here. These people, they don't have any choice but to escape from there.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you see some of the videos on YouTube that these people, these terrorist people, they uploaded on YouTube, it's horrible. They just kill these Hazara people wherever they see. So basically we are in one small area, we can't go anywhere to shop. The young guys, they can't get education from, if they finish their year 10, they can't go to any university or colleges, because the colleges, they are not in our area, they're in other suburbs, so we can't go anywhere. So basically it's a pretty hard situation for them.
Australia's attitude towards asylum seekers, particularly boat people, is not very accepting or sympathetic, as we saw at the last election when a campaign was based around prohibiting them.
Who are still in that system and are waiting a decision that they will get on the other side of the election. Kevin Rudd wants you to pretend that these 30,000 people are not here. Those 30,000 people will be the most enthusiastic about a Labor victory, because those 30,000 individuals will have the opportunity of a permanent visa under Kevin Rudd that they will not have under an Abbott-led coalition government.
Most of the guys, they on bridging visa, they don't know. Their families back home, they waiting for them, what will happen to them. They have no future at the moment, they can't work, they can't study, they basically nowhere.
Violet Romeliotis is the CEO of Settlement Services International and knows how isolated from the community asylum seekers with bridging visas are.
When you're on a bridging visa, it's essentially saying to you that your status is unresolved. You're saying that you're an asylum seeker, and the Australian government is going to go through a process to assess that and to make a decision, yay or nay. And that, in the current environment, there is no time frame. So they actually have been told, those on bridging visas, that they're really going to be considered at the end of the queue. So the government is going to take their time in processing those applications. Therefore, that means that they're living on limited means. 89% of a Centrelink payment, which works out to about $32 a day. That $32 means that they have to pay for rent, for food, for transport, for clothing, everything, their utilities. It's not a lot of money. It's well below the poverty line. So.
However, the community heard about the struggles of this group. They reached out and brought them into the community through sport.
There was a story in the Herald about these young men who had been seen kicking a ball around out in Auburn every evening on a dirt pitch. And someone had noticed them and thought they were actually pretty skillful. And that was Isa Khan, I think, who's become their coach. And they decided that they wanted to form a team and approached them and said, would you like to play in some club football, which of course they were thrilled about. And so there was contact details on the bottom of the article, and I got in contact with them and said, is there anything that we can do? And we became part of a mail out to various organisations saying, look, we found this great team of young men on community detention mostly, and the one thing they're allowed to do, or no one can stop them from doing, is playing sport. So it appealed to me. It's sort of a bit of a legal loophole, which I like. It's the one thing no one's thought of stopping them doing yet. And so I put my hand up and said, we'd like to contribute if we can. And so we sponsored the team. Synapse Medical Services sponsored the team. Someone else has sponsored their boots and shin pads and socks, so purchased all the equipment. And another organisation, I think, paid their registration fees.
The other thing I reckon about it is this is about sport, and every Australian understands sport. And even the people who might have pretty strong ideas about what they want to happen to boat people will be able to connect with people who love sport and people who want to play sport and the competitiveness of sport. So I like Margaret said, I think it's a really positive way of communicating their story without, seeing them being, suppressed and jailed and, requesting things and,
limited in their actions and lives. They seem pretty happy at the moment on the sideline and out there on the pitch. This is
Well, they're doing something. This is fun. Right, they don't get to do anything fun.
I think it's a way that they are able to be distracted from other aspects of their lives that are probably not going so well.
Despite the trauma they've experienced in their lives and the uncertainty surrounding their Australian citizen status, these asylum seekers were able to find an escape to have happiness in their lives and connect with the larger community through sport when all the odds were stacked against them.
Australians have learned a lot about immigrant cultures, for example, through sport. And suddenly we see some refugee kid from Africa playing for the young Socceroos or the Socceroos. And suddenly he's one of us, and we learn a lot about his background, where he came from, what he went through in order to find a new home in Australia. This is what enriches our nation, and sport is a medium for that enrichment.
And who knows, maybe Australia's next sporting superstar will be an asylum seeker. In the meantime, it's hard not to be inspired by the Newington Gunners or the Auburn Giants, who are out there spreading the message of tolerance and harmony by engaging the community through sport.
Can anyone tell me what peace means? Salam. What does salam mean?
Do not fight.
Do not fight.
Sport is a vehicle for tolerance, harmony and understanding, especially through programs like Football United. Australia and its people have much to prosper from activities that unite cultures and ideas and bring people closer together.